So you want to get leads, you want to get clients, and you'd love it if people would come to you, and that's what you really want. You want people coming to you. But there's a problem. It's really hard to get yourself out there now. Feeds are saturated, reach is down, and it feels like it's hard to get attention. And that, is frustrating because you're putting all this effort in to try and break out, and it just feels like you're hitting a brick wall. Or maybe you're seeing other people with less experience, less developed ideas, and they seem to be thriving because they're playing all the games that maybe you don't want to play. That is the kind of worst case scenario. But it shouldn't be that way because of the way algorithms have become, because of the way social media operates. It's not the case that the best person, the most knowledgeable person, gets the attention. It should be that way. It should be the way that the people with the experience, the people with the big ideas, the people with the genuine stuff that can help should get the attention. But it doesn't work that way because of algorithms, because of feeds. And the problem comes is you're competing in that space. And so I want to share with you today about something that's going to help you actually get remembered or be remembered. And it's a principle that is used to win elections, to sell products, and companies, large companies, supermarkets, retailers spend millions working on this to basically make more sales, achieve more profit, get us to buy things we didn't even plan to buy. And I'm going to share it with you today. So most people who win in any marketing environment have got really comfortable with repetition, with consistently saying exactly the same thing. Politicians, brands, supermarkets, religious people, everybody you can think of, social movements, everything you think of, their success is found in repetition. And I'll give you some examples of this. And I share this one, and I'm not getting political, but if you look at election campaigns, you look at Donald Trump's 2024 win, Make America Great Again. He repeated that over and over and over again. If you look at 2019, Boris Johnson, Get Brexit Done. Every campaign you see that's been successful has not been because they've got the best manifesto. It's not because they've got the best 39-page document or any of that. It comes down to whose message is simple enough to stick and whose message who's going to repeat that message over and over and over. And so when you look at that and you start to think about it, you go, hang on a minute, what's my message? And the interesting part about it is the slogan, shall we say, becomes attached to an outcome. So if you look at the Make America Great Again, and I know some of you will hate it, but if you can see past your politics here, you will see that it was actually a clever stroke of genius what they did with that phrase. So Make America Great Again is tapping into a feeling that some people have that America wasn't as good as it used to be. Yeah. And so that feeling, some people maybe have not done so well over the last few years, has basically been captured and wrapped up in a slogan. Now that slogan means things to different people, but it's a desire and it's a felt truth. It's a felt truth. Take back control is a desire and a feeling that we've actually lost control. Obama had one of the best ones. Yes, we can. It was a sense of things can get better. There is opportunity. All of these slogans that were repeated over and over and over again have took people to high office. Just do it. I'm loving it. You think about all of these slogans and they wrap up both a feeling and they wrap up an outcome of achievement of a better future. And so when we're thinking about what we're trying to do to win those clients, we need to wrap up our message both into a slogan, something that's catchy and can easily be remembered, but people actually feel something about it. Now, weirdly, some of these brands have been repeating these things for decades. But some of us, what do? We actually get tired of repeating something 3 times and want to change it. And this principle of repetition is tapped into the mere exposure effect. Now, this was a discovery, for want of a word, that Robert Zajonka, Polish psychologist, discovered, I think in the 70s, that the more we see something or hear something, the more we trust it. And so these slogans that are being put out are actually being tapping into 2 really important things. First, they're tapping into the mere exposure effect of repetition means we trust something more. Showing up, being visible, seeing our face, just being known makes us more visible. When I work with sales teams, and I train sales teams and speak to sales leaders, say your team have to build familiarity. They have to use the mere exposure effect so that they get more responses from their prospects. And it's proven when a seller can actually get in front of a prospect and they've done some familiarity building on, say, LinkedIn, they actually get 3 times the response rate than somebody who just goes in cold. So this familiarity building, this showing up consistently is really important. But it's not enough for people to just see our faces over and over again. They need to have a consistent message over and over and over again. I think it was Daniel Priestley who said, I always talked about 7 times because that's an old school stat. But Daniel Priestley, I think in the last 6 months, has said he reckons it's about 11. 11 times of you saying the same thing, of them, your audience seeing exactly the same thing from you, for them to actually go, I think I know what this is. 11 times that they see it. So if you think about that, how many times do you have to repeat it based on did they see it, did they not? So it's actually thinking about what you're trying to do when you're building a brand, trying to get leads and clients. What you need to think about is it's more like an election campaign where you have to go round and use your message. Yes, put different spins on it, but it's the same message. If you change your message, you go back to square one each time. So it's like you're resetting the clock. You're resetting the touch points. So the mere exposure effect and repetition basically makes you memorable, but people won't remember long, complex things because of the nature of social media and our attention spans. So we can't get lost in nuance. So we have to take time to actually develop that message, that simple message, so that you can repeat it and people get it really, really quickly. I was listening to a podcast the other day from Donald Miller. If you've never read any of Donald Miller's books, you should. StoryBrand is incredible. And in this podcast, he's talking about cognitive load. And I see this all the time on LinkedIn, that people share things and they have to think really hard to figure out what you're saying. Sometimes when I'm working with ChatGPT, it'll output something and it sounds really clever. And then when I try and actually understand what it said, I realize it's actually saying nothing. Like when you start to push against it, it collapses into nothing because the cognitive load went, that's complicated. Wow, that sounds clever. But actually the meaning has been lost. And cognitive load is where you require people to do too much thinking to understand what you've got to say. That's why every election that has ever been won in the Western world has been won by somebody who had a very simplistic message, a very clear message, a message that tapped into a hope and tapped into a fear. And it was repeated over and over and over again. So the cognitive load piece is maybe go and look at, and this is really interesting example. I'm doing this at the moment. Go into your LinkedIn profile or your social profiles, take a screenshot of it, go into ChatGPT and say, how much cognitive load is in this profile? Or how much cognitive load is in this message? And you know, when I get outreach messages, I look at my outreach messages that I receive and I go, what the hell are you talking about? And here's the reason why this happens. Why do we put out complicated messages that other people don't understand? Don't people see it and spot it? No, because what happens is when we see a message, we put our meanings onto the words. So optimize efficiency. It's a great word, but it's a great phrase. It sounds really clever, but what does it mean? Actually, when you push on it, it could mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but it could also mean nothing. And so what happens is we end up loading those words into our message. And because we know what we mean by that word, we presume that other people will pick up on the same meaning. And again, something that was really interesting to me is, I can't remember where I heard this, but it's a good saying. The saying is, I'm not just responsible for what I say, I'm responsible for what people understand. And when you think about that phrase, what do people understand? It changes the way you write, because what you will do is look through your message, look through what you're sharing and going, have I just loaded up a load of words here that I know what they mean, but other people looking at it from a different perspective would have no freaking clue. So the mistake we make is two things. One, going for more and more novelty, literally chopping and changing. Sometimes that's because we like variety, and sometimes it's because we think, oh, maybe that message isn't working. It takes time for a message to work. It takes time to become known for something. It takes 11 times of somebody seeing something to figure out that's what you do. So if you want to really build a brand, you're going to have to go on that election campaign and say the same things over and over again, different ways, different angles, billboards, carousels, all that kind of stuff, like an election campaign, but say that simplistic message that ties into what people want and what people's problem is, and say it over and over. Now, it might not be as simple as a 4-word or 3-word sentence, but it can't be 20 words. It has to be able to be articulated in, 10 or 15 seconds, really, really quickly. They can glance at it and get it. So the goal is not to move your message around. The goal is owning a message and repeating that message so you become known for a specific thing. So just like the Get Brexit Done, just like the Yes We Can, you want to become known and be remembered for something. And it's up to you to actually decide and own that phrase. And you have to own the understanding of that phrase. Think about this week. What idea, what key phrase would you want associated with your name in, say, 5 years? Because that's what you should be saying now. What would you want people to say you are known for? And it can't be like vague stuff. It has to be something that convinces people that they should work with you, that they should be talking to you. So it has to tap into that. What do people really want? And what's the problem they want to solve?